Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Michael Willer. I am a chubby chaser, and today I am an excited big fig boy. I don't think we're announcing just quite why yet, but suffice it to say, these are some wild and tricky fun times, and Don and I had a very fun photo video shoot earlier this morning involving lots of goodies and things. So stay tuned for that. Look, I'm not overselling it. It's accurate.
Hey there. My name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and I am, I guess today I am a high fashion model boy for a little project that we did this morning.
Yeah, that's right.
If for any of you who are curious about a tiger crawl, I'll be demonstrating that in the very near future.
Oh my. It got real, folks.
Oh my.
It got real.
Oh, I have to follow in the tracks of your tiger crawl? Hi, I'm Dan
They are
Oliverio.
deep.
Hi, I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And, Trevor and I are proud owners of a brand new acre of couch.
That's right,
Yes.
folks.
Yeah.
Biggest couch ever made.
It got
spent
bigger.
5 minutes before the podcast just wandering around the couch, checking out its nooks and crannies. There's a sculpture garden around the back. You have to check this out. It's nice.
Oh, we haven't turned the fountain on yet.
There's they used up all the teal.
I'm Trevor Keys, and I'm a super chub, and I'm a super couch boy.
That's right.
Today.
He's still on the couch.
I am. I've been all over the couch.
Couché all day, Trevor.
There's a picture that may get shared of me in kind of a Java pose, very pleased with being able to sprawl on the couch.
Bring me solo.
Yeah.
Well done, baby. Well done.
Well, if you couldn't tell, we are once again back in the same room. Hopefully, we might be doing some Zoom episodes coming up. Who knows? My hand. I will say, in fairness to the people who were writing in giving me advice about my hand, it does feel a little better.
I want to point out that Michael has a bandage on the inside of his palm.
Yeah.
Today, so it's better, but it's still just like.
Well, that's from something else.
It's
he was
worse
using
in-
his palm for.
Michael collects
Some heavy
injuries like other
spanking.
people collect comic books.
It's a spanking injury.
I think that could be. We might have an episode title, right? I like spanking injury. Thank you to our patrons, Patreon. We're in May now when this comes out. May, springing into May with some sort of mini-sode that we'll probably
Come up with
have decided by now.
What's it time for? Is it me and Dan again? Or
I think a chaser chat is always fun and engaging.
yeah, we can do that.
I mean, the bar is fully stocked.
We could record that tomorrow. Who knows? It could be anything. We never know. So thank you, Patreon patrons, for supporting us and keeping the show going. And thank you to all of the regular listeners out there and for being patient while we skip to this every other week schedule. Again, hopefully that's just a temporary thing. We'll be back to once a week soon enough, but we are giving my hand plenty of time to heal, and we should be good. Okay. I think it's time. You guys ready?
Ready.
Oh,
We're ready.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I forgot about this. I was in a really jazzy mood. And I was singing. But I forgot. We have some music for that. And I take off my hat.
Slow fade.
I was doing some jazzy tunes when we were getting ready to record. Big spender.
Oh, dear.
And speaking of music and singing and jazzy tunes.
Yeah, that's a good segue.
I did like I know what I'm doing. We're talking about Alex Newell. We're talking about Shucked.
We don't talk enough
Houston.
about Alex Newell. Can I just say that?
Alex Newell from Glee?
Yes. Glee and other shows and Broadway. Shucked, recently they're, I think, promoting Shucked, the Broadway musical opened, past tense, April 4th of this year. Interview in New York Times style section.
I am Alex Newell, and my favorite song is How Will I Know by Whitney Houston. When she starts that song, it's like this emphatic war call about love. There's nothing like it. There's a boy I know, he's the one I dream of. Oh my goodness. The best lyrics are in the background vocals. Don't trust your feelings. Love can be deceiving. I love those lyrics because we walk through this life every day when we have crushes or we're infatuated by someone and we don't know what their true feelings are towards us. And it's like, don't trust your feelings, trust your heart. Because love is really deceiving until you know it's real. We don't have a lot of big voices in today's music as much as we did back then when Whitney was at her prime. Listening to her gave me the space to be myself and have a big voice and be loud and unabashed. How will I know?
To be able to just like bust that song out a cappella in an interview setting without even being properly mic'd for vocals, like... Oh, God. Alex, you're a treasure. Never change. I love how bubbly they are. Just like the energy just exudes.
It's marvelous.
Out of
Just
the
marvelous,
interview. I think what they meant from the whole like don't trust your feelings, trust your heart is that like the feelings of like self-doubt or over analyzing all of those things up in your head.
Or they must feel this because this, that's that.
Yeah, trying to guess.
Trying to deduce and guess.
Yeah, feelings will pull you in every direction. They're like an ever-changing wind. Whereas love will pull you in one direction.
Yeah.
I think that's what it means.
Yeah. Which I get. It's like saying yes. But, oh my God, Alex's voice. So Alex did a performance with the Boston Gay Men's Chorus, which I used to work for up until somewhat recently. And they did that performance of I Know Where I've Been with the Boston Gay Men's Chorus, which is why it got selected to go onto Glee. Like it was that performance. Alex was already on Glee at that point, and then it was that performance that convinced them to then perform it. It was like somebody brought it to. It wasn't Ryan. It was whoever the other sort of co-writer was, and it was like, oh no, we should do this. And oh my God, you should go find that video. It's on YouTube. I did the remix for it actually because the original mix is atrocious, and Alex sounds fucking phenomenal.
That's great.
Oh my God, yeah.
I actually saw. I was aware.
What if I may? What's the news event that Alex is on Shucked?
Yes.
In the musical Shucked.
New musical
on Broadway.
Shucked, which is about small farming town with a thriving corn crop, and the crops start dying, and they are trying to find out how they can save the crops and save the town. In doing that, and Alex plays a whiskey entrepreneur. I was seeing, before I saw this article, I kept seeing people talking about Shucked, and because I have an internet garbage brain, I'm like, oh, did they make a musical about the corn song?
What's the corn song?
It's corn.
It's corn. It's got the
juice. And because that was my
Dennis so
context for like.
I've been confused since we started.
It was a thing last summer. It was this little kid singing about corn, and it got like a remix.
Well, he wasn't even singing, was he?
Oh no, he was just talking about what he liked about corn, and they
auto-tuned it into a song
Yes.
because internet, of course. But the thing is, it's precious because he's so
enthusiastic about corn.
Enthusiastic and
he became
earnest.
like the spokesperson, I think, for like the National Corn Council or something.
That's smart of them.
Anyway,
So this musical is not about
that. And
I'm so glad you clarified.
So that's part of why I wanted to do this. And
Poor
I didn't
Dan.
realize Alex Newell was in it. And I actually, since, putting this article into the algorithm of my device, I've been getting clips of Alex Newell in Chuck.
My.
And we've been trying to figure out if I want to go somewhere for my birthday, and it's between Chicago and New York. And I've been wanting to get back to New York and get into some Broadway accessible seating, which we can do for Shuck. They do have.
Go see Alex Newell live. Are you
Yes.
kidding me?
It is the so for
I'm
our
jealous.
New York listeners, if you want to see Shucked, the type of seats, it is the wheelchair transfer seats, which means it's an aisle seat, and the arm goes up, so you can have some
or
room.
I think actually comes off. Yeah,
Well, it depends on the theater.
I guess so.
Probably different shapes.
The arm either goes up or they rip it out of the floor for you.
But the seat's still there, just the aisle side arm is gone.
I want to see Alex Newell as a whiskey entrepreneur. That sounds amazing. And I know that the performance is amazing because I've seen clips of them singing.
It's I don't think Alex is capable of giving a subpar performance. Like their voice is just flawless. I don't even understand how it's possible. So you get to learn a little bit about Alex's past in this New York Times article, and I love that they're describing getting their start in a church choir, but they were too loud.
Well, I think didn't Whitney Houston get her start in a church choir, I believe?
I don't know.
And I think,
maybe.
And I think also Jennifer Holliday.
God, I'm on my Aretha Franklin also church choir.
Dionne Warwick. Yeah, it's just a huge
A lot of
history this.
gospel.
Yeah.
Anyway, being too loud, because in a choir, of course, you want everyone to mix together. You need the voices to be cohesive. And so Alex stood out too much, and now they're on Broadway. Amazing.
They said something else. This is a slight tangent, but it was something I think that hit a note that I've heard twice before recently, where he was talking about a lack of sort of belters nowadays. That we used to have so many singing belters.
Yeah.
And recently, so right before we started recording, I shared a Netta video. She's the singer from Israel we talked about recently. Yeah. And I also heard an interview with a current male lead at the Opera House here in LA, where they're doing an opera about the gay boxer that killed a man in the ring when the guy called him a gay slur in the weigh-in.
Yeah.
And both of them talked about how being larger singers, they were always expected to be belters, right? And they never really thought of themselves that way. They didn't think they were capable of that. And they fought against it until late in life. So it's just
interesting.
Yeah, it's just interesting that they should get that. They should make that observation. It was very on point.
Yeah, I mean, and Alex, again, if you haven't heard their voice, you can hear snippets of it in this interview, and it's just worth it. If you can get to New York and see this show live, yeah, absolutely. Go do it. Support Alex. They're a fat singer, fat actor, just fantastic. All right. What's next? Oh, more theater
Still
news.
More theater.
Broadway is
More
our theme.
theater.
So this is from Broadway World, and unfortunately, this show is coming past, but I wanted to talk about it because it is a theater group called the Heavyweights, and it is 3 fat guys, and they did a performance of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, where it was the 3 of them doing all the roles.
Yeah, so what they do is they do the entire musical, just the 3 of them, changing in and out of costumes very
Constantly.
quickly. It's more than a staged reading, less than a full production.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember how they referred to it in the article. The review, I think, was fairly honest. It was like, look, the show, the reviewer had seen the show a bunch of times and
Was in the show, damn it.
Was in the show when they were, and I think was honest about maybe some of the repetitive nature of the jokes that came along with doing it the way they were doing it, but fully in support of the troupe themselves, of the performing talent of the people actually doing the show.
And that it's 3 fat guys doing roles. And the thing is, if you're a fat person in musical theater, there's like 1 role in every other musical that you're allowed to play because that's the fat person role.
Yeah.
And so what it would be like if fat people played all the roles.
Yeah, and just wanting to support the Heavyweights because, of course, they'll have other productions that they're going to do. I don't think we know what's next for them per se.
I wonder if they're all belters.
I was trying to find them on social media, and I just can't find. Like I was looking, and I couldn't find it. And I think it's because Heavyweights is just kind of a generic thing. I kept getting like this Heavyweights gym that was a bodybuilding gym.
Yeah.
If any listeners have been able to find, like, if they have an Instagram or maybe they're only on TikTok or something, because I would love to be able to follow them and see what they do next.
Yeah, and support it because the show just ended, so it's probably going to be at least a little bit before they get the next one going.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it time? It's time.
Shh.
Scooty flying across the screen. Take hands, everyone. Perhaps the best adventure of all will be to do that watch.
Yay!
Dan's so confused. We all are, Dan. We all
I'm thinking
are.
of Peter Pan. I don't know, because Peter
Come
Pan, because we're
with
flying.
me.
I don't.
That's not Peter Pan,
not Peter
Michael.
Pan.
I know.
You're
but
just
I'm-
confusing things.
Because he
more.
said, "Take my hand," and I was
Yeah.
thinking in my head it was "Take my hand." And
So we have it's prom season, baby. Are you in prom? Do you remember that?
No.
Did anyone here go to their prom?
Oh,
No.
God.
I did.
What a mistake.
Did you go to prom?
No, I had a very dorky let's do anti-prom.
Oh, good for you.
It was very dorky.
I had a graduating class of 9 people with 1 girl. We had a really weird prom.
So you all took the 1 girl or something?
We ended up
Jesus.
merging with a class beneath us, and like it was. We had
Anyway,
it at the Grange. It was weird.
The reason we're talking about prom is because I saw that. So this story came through my Fat News aggregator, and it's not exactly I don't really know how it got in there, but it's they're about the Cinderella Project in
my neck of the woods,
Harrisonburg, Virginia. It is the Cinderella Project of Shenandoah Valley.
Yep.
Oh, I got it again. Look at me speaking words.
He's on a roll. No, he's on a muffin.
So I did some research. So the Cinderella Project used to be like a nationwide organization, and I think maybe at this point there's a few local chapters like this one that still exist, and they gather and distribute prom wear for kids going to prom who can't get a prom dress or a tuxedo or suit.
And why might they not be able to get a prom dress or a tuxedo or formal wear?
Because they don't fit conventional sizing.
Yeah. Or just they can't, or they can find a plus size maybe prom dress, but they can't afford it or something just because of fat taxes and everything.
Or if it's just not, if their options are limited and it's just not very good. If it's not very nice, pretty, whatever.
But so they were in this article. What's her name? Howdy Shell. What's her
Rhonda Howdy Shell?
Rhonda Howdy Shell.
Or as I like to say, our Honda Howdy Shell.
Our Honda.
Our Honda. So Rhonda is talking about they have a specific need for gowns over size 18. And then actually, I was trying to calculate. I never could figure out like suit sizing. But actually, they have a dearth of small suits.
Really?
For men. And I was actually thinking about this because I'm like, well, I feel like there are more likely to, like, men in suits and tuxedos. I feel like whether they're sizing up or down, I feel like there are more of those going cycled through and being donated than, one prom dress.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to highlight this is because, so this is in Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah.
And I think, listeners, if you have a prom dress or tuxedo or just some kind of formal wear that is kicking around and you don't know what to do, you should look up to see if in your area there is a similar organization, because I think it is a great way to find a new home for some kind of, something that you're holding on to, but you're probably not going to wear again. Give it some new life. Let your old clothes go to prom with some fat kids who need formal wear.
It was what they were always meant for.
Yeah, and there are programs like that not just for prom too. Like I know when I joined the chorus, I needed to get a tuxedo, and like I didn't have. I was like freshman in college. I had no money for a tuxedo, especially for a large man tuxedo. Luckily I found a program in the area that had a couple larger sizes for people at lower.
That's a really good point, because they also do that for
weddings,
interviews. For like people who are job hunting after whatever.
When I inquired at homeless shelters when I was looking to donate some of my larger clothes, one of the things they said is they always need more large formal clothing, because a lot of people, they have to go to job interviews and things, and they don't have access to the clothes they need for the job interviews.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Although hopefully that standard is falling away, because I feel like the requirement of wearing like dressed up clothing for job interviews is sort of dying.
But you still need at least office.
Well,
clothes.
You do need nice clothes.
Well, that's the thing.
But
If you need a job, it's quite likely you need the money, and you need the money, you need the clothes.
Yeah, that's actually been a point of closure for a lot of closure is the wrong word. Blocking of access for a lot of poorer people is the inability to present themselves in a way that they'd get hired.
I happen to know for a fact that we have listeners in Virginia, in that area of Virginia. So if you know some people who have some clothes, donate them. Prom's coming up. We actually might be. This is going to come out before prom, right?
I was unsure, but I think it's close.
it's tight. It's tight. Much like the prom.
But you could come in. Just think of this exciting moment of like you're listening and you run to your closet and you get your suit. And right before the prom,
the prom bell is going to strike.
They're going to make it to time in prom in their pumpkin carriage.
I was going to say, got your pumpkin, got your mice, got your rat.
All right.
Bippity-boppity
speaking
boopy.
of fairy tales, I suppose that's actually a pretty solid segue. Did you guys do that on purpose?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes. We're talking about an actual fairy tale. In fact, we're talking about a movie called Shrek.
I've heard of that.
Even Dan's heard of it. And had you seen this before we did this?
I have, but like most things, I have zero memory of it until we rewatched it.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. Part of the reason I was excited to do Shrek is I feel like there's like a Shrek renaissance. And
A Shrekissance?
Yeah. Well, and like there's in the LA area in early May, there is a Shrek rave happening.
What?
Wow.
A Shrek rave? Like
Yes.
what, to the soundtrack of Shrek?
Well, like a Shrek themed rave that I think will probably include the soundtrack, but the big thing is like I think you go dressed as Shrek characters.
Okay.
That would make
And
sense.
I think they recently renovated the Shrek area of Universal or something.
Well, they're doing a whole, like, they did Puss in Boots, and then aren't they doing Shrek 5? You
5.
said?
Shrek
my
5,
God.
baby.
Shrek
Yeah.
5 is coming out.
To answer the unanswered questions from 1, 2,
3 and 4 and the offshoots. Anyway, we're talking about the original Shrek, which we assume that people have seen.
Yeah. Who wants to summarize Shrek for those who haven't seen it?
I bet I could do it.
Dan,
I bet
you
I-
do
I
it.
bet I
This will
could.
be
Do it,
exciting.
Dan.
This is like the little engine who could.
Okay, hold on. I need to get the social media music. No, okay.
Oh, so yeah, I guess I can spoil the whole thing, right? Can't I? Oh, here we go.
Spoilers for Shrek. Spoilers for Shrek.
The 22-year-old movie. Anyway, go ahead.
Once upon a time, in a swamp far, far away, there was an ogre named Shrek, and he is in the purview of this evil fascist dictator named Ron DeSantis, who is trying to throw out all the story characters from the Everglades. And they are fleeing their captivity in the schools and libraries there. And so they go and they run to the swamp. And Shrek's very put out because he's a bit of a misanthrope and he doesn't want them there. And anyway, long story short, he ends up getting the guy's princess. Like, if you get me my princess, I'll get these people out of your swamp, which, what are you going to do with them then? Anyway, moving on. So Shrek goes to find the princess. The princess, as it turns out, is in the clutches of a dragon. But the princess has a secret. The princess, actually by night, is an ogre, just like Shrek. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
they're made for each other.
But of course, they're dealing with their body shame issues. Each of them, Shrek being a misanthrope who hates people having these horrible reactions to his body.
They always scream at him.
They always scream, and the princess who has pretty privilege by day and ogritude by night.
Ogre too.
So guess what? They discover each other's secrets, live happily ever after in the nick of time,
And she permanently becomes an ogre.
Yes.
Yep.
yes, because she is going to transform with love's true kiss, and apparently she transforms into. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is kind of a plot point that is unclear to me, at least. She transforms into the form that is the form of her true love as dictated by her love.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like they dig into it a little more in Shrek 2.
Okay. So basically, if she had married Prince Farquad, she'd be human, but she falls in love with Shrek, so she stays an ogre.
Well, it could be argued that if she married Farquad, there was no love and nothing would have been broken.
Okay.
yeah, it's well, so let's get into
So
it.
that's the
That's the thing.
I mean, there's so much.
There's a lot. There's a
to
lot.
unpack here, and so in talking about the like whole Shrek renaissance and how like Gen Z seems to have like fully embraced Shrek. I was like, it hit me during this movie. I'm like, I think it's because Shrek is like the complete rejection of Disney culture, and it's really kind of like embracing ugly, which is there's kind of this whole like ugly aesthetic to a lot of the like Gen Z aesthetics, like the drippy, goopy, softer, distorted edges.
Okay.
And I think it is like the rejection of the whole millennial Disney adult thing.
Yeah,
Like it is
I got it.
like Gen Z is like Shrek adults and millennials are Disney adults, and they're kind of embracing opposite ideals.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It should be said that Shrek was done by DreamWorks, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not a
And,
Disney.
well, as a direct flipping the bird to Disney.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shrek is a very direct fuck you to Disney.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Trevor, completely. But I interpret it slightly differently. When I first watched it, I remember feeling Shrek to me felt like a movie about the fat person being pushed out. Right. I saw it as something about fatness because that was the lens I was watching it through.
And Shrek being the fat person pushed out?
He's the fat person pushed out. When I was watching it this time, though, I saw it a little differently because I actually like the word "fat" isn't actually used very often, right?
If ever.
If
Yeah,
ever.
I don't think it is.
Othering.
Yeah.
It's simply you are not us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're pushing you out. And I see more Gen Z being about that. Gen Z is not necessarily anti-fat; they're anti-othering, right? We're all like, it doesn't matter if you're fat. It's just we're all fucking going through the same shit. Is their attitude? So,
Well, I think the point of the movie, although I don't think they actually use the word fat, it's very much this idea of judging people by appearances.
yes.
Yeah.
They say he says big, stupid, ugly ogre. I think
Right.
that's the term. That's the way that they describe him.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that I agree with you, Don, that it's about othering, but a special kind of othering. Like it's not based on religion. It's not based on a lot of other things. It's based on,
Shallow physical.
well, yeah, but that's important because, again, it's that they have this reaction to him from 40 feet away, which is very much like the experience of a fat person.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, and I was really thinking about, so, in the case of Fiona, where she is thin, atypical beauty, normal, like the beauty standards by day, and then fat ogre by night. And it just made me think of the whole thing of like people who have gained and lost weight talking about, I was treated so much better
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was thinner, and just the real horror of like people who maybe have had that experience of like, oh, you're thin and beautiful now, versus like then they gain the weight back and they lose access to that.
I think that's a very good observation because they did a very good job of Fiona doesn't hate either side of herself, right?
Oh, she really doesn't like being the ugly ogre.
No, she doesn't like being treated the way she's treated when she's the ugly ogre. She never expresses hatred for herself. She hates the way life is in that form. That was very much what I
And
took
like
away
no
from
one
it.
could ever love me this way.
Yeah. So that's why I think you were very spot on with that.
I think, being me and a chubby chaser, I think I took a lot of some of Fiona a bit more literally. That one way by day and one way by night is very similar to the closeted chubby chaser.
Yeah.
Who is in bed with his heart's desire at
that's
night,
interesting.
but pretends to be something else during the day. And here's the other thing too. When she's an ogre, she doesn't have to hide the fact that she's a pretty princess the rest of the time.
Right.
Whereas the reverse is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was watching it, I thought that like Shrek, the one thing that kind of bugged me, and I don't know if it's just like a sign of the times or if it's just how can you hold people to an even higher standard, because it is a very like liberating kind of watch for fat positive people. They conflate fat and ugly.
Yeah.
Well, do they? Because they never say fat.
He says big.
yeah.
I mean,
He is
Well,
big.
he's identified as fat,
Yeah.
and then the audience member is left to sort of pick what people are identifying as ugly, right? Like, is he ugly because he's green? Is he ugly
I mean,
because
but
he's
we can
huge, 'cause of the
objectively
teeth?
describe him as fat. Just because they don't
Yes.
use the
Yeah.
word fat, they drew him fat and called him ugly. I don't think that's an accident.
No, but that's true of a lot of other characters in there too. Like Farquad is not thin either.
I think,
He is.
yeah, Farquaad's thin. He's short.
Yeah, he's
So
made.
it's
He is.
proportionally-
He is made to be ugly because they make him short, and they associate short with being ugly in the movie.
Yeah, that's my.
It's sort of a similar thing.
My point is there's no. While there are certainly characters of different sizes, I think it's unfair to say like, oh well, they said ugly, but they meant fat. No, they could have said fat.
No, I don't think they would have drawn an ugly ogre without making him fat.
Well, so this is something that may change your perspective. Feel like I've talked about this before, and I don't know if you remember this. So when they were making Shrek, Chris Farley was supposed to be the voice of Shrek.
I see.
And he had recorded almost all of the dialogue before he died.
Oh.
And then Mike Myers came in, and he did, kind of a completely different take on the character.
Very
Which I was thinking about, like, what this movie would have been like. Would it have been as successful? Would it have been different?
The plot was changed. The character accent changed from American to Scottish
yeah.
to Canadian standard back to Scottish. There were multiple versions recorded.
Oh, well, Chris was still
Yeah.
doing the voice?
No,
No.
all under Michael Meyer.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
They weren't sure if they wanted to go with a Scottish ogre.
Yeah. Well, they were concerned at first that There were a lot of concerns that it was going to be disrespectful to Chris Farley if it was too similar to him. So at first they were trying to get it away from him, and then
Weird.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's hard to deny that the voice now is iconic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would have been a completely different movie, and I'm.
Yeah.
And I think, and
It
in that
even had a
case,
different plot. The original plot was he was an ogre who wanted to be a knight and needed to prove himself to the kingdom to be worthy.
Oh,
That was the original.
wow.
I had to do, for the bit, I had to do a lot of research. Shrek took over 5 years to make compared to 3 years for the other ones. And that involved throwing out the entire script twice.
well, and so to Michael's point, I wonder if that's what happens when you have a thin actor taking over for a fat actor. All of a sudden, it's not about being good enough anymore when it was a fat character.
Oh. Do we know if they rewrote it after Mike Myers took over the
Yes.
character? They did.
I can confirm they rewrote it at least twice after he came on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
Or they might have just rewritten it because it sucked, but that's another thing.
Well,
But it was after.
at least one of the rewrites was entirely at his insistence because he did not want to do anything that would take away from what Chris Farley was trying to
He
do.
didn't want to imitate Chris
He
Farley
didn't
doing
want to
it.
imitate Chris
Right.
Farley. He didn't want to
No, but it does
copy
beg,
him. He didn't want to disrespect him.
it does beg the question, which is kind of back to Michael's point of, was it written as, well, it's a fat character, so we know how that's going to go.
Well, as far as fat characters go, like what else was there in that time period?
Well, that's what Chris Farley did. I mean, Chris
Yeah.
Farley made a career of being that fat guy.
Yeah, but and I feel like when I look at Chris Farley's characters, I feel like I look at him the way a lot of black people might look at early black characters, where I feel wildly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
I can't
Chris
watch them.
Farley's characters
can't
are
either.
dumb.
I can't watch it at all.
They're not just like ignorant or innocent. They're dumb. Right.
No, they're aggressively
they're
dumb.
clumsy.
They're aggressively dumb.
Yeah,
They're like
exactly, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of like watching Melissa McCarthy do her earlier fat characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that said, again, they were able to get in front of the camera. They were able to lay a foundation that other people were to come and,
And
correct later
the
on.
performers are fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, Dan, like I can't go back and watch old Chris Farley movies. Especially my mom loves the Chippendales Chris Farley.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just, and she was like, I think she thought that I would be on board. And I was like,
No, I see why she thought that.
I can see why too.
Yeah.
I think it's like in her mind, it's sort of a radical gesture to embrace that and to be like, yeah, I like,
No, but it's especially, from the Chaser perspective, it's such a fuck you of look how stupid what you like is. See how funny it is? Whereas
look how disgusting.
yeah.
Yeah. But Shrek, the movie, doesn't.
Yeah,
They don't
No.
really do that at all.
Not
I
at
don't
all.
think. I think they.
but I don't think we. But my point was, I don't think we might not have gotten Shrek without Chris Farley.
Yeah.
Right. He's literally laying down the foundation that let Shrek stand on his shoulders. And
even
be
before
a
he
normal
agreed to do
character.
the movie, you mean? Just by him existing and playing
Yeah.
his other characters, he was then able to go on
Yeah.
board for Shrek and get the movie
Yep.
in process.
In the
going.
same way that Chris Farley stood on the shoulders of Jim Belushi, that did some even more horrible, depictions of fat people.
You mean John Belushi?
John Belushi, excuse
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And Jim Belushi.
And
Fuck
Jim-
you, Jim Belushi.
Yeah, Jim. I suppose Jim. No, I mean, so for me, like the movie, I think they do conflate fat and ugly, but they don't do it in a way where they're not standing by that as the right point of view, if that makes sense. Like I think by the end, like they're both fat and they're both in love and they're both ugly together in quotes, and it's like that's true love, and that's how they present it. Like, and so they don't go down the road of saying fat people don't deserve love. They do the opposite, but they still do conflate fat and ugly.
Well,
together.
I think there is something in there that I've seen over and over again as Chaser, which is that, if two fat people end up together, everybody's happy. If a thin person and a fat person end up together, oh my God.
The outrage.
The outrage. I mean, and I've seen this over and over again in my life on social media where people are absolutely upset that these people ended up together.
Let me ask this just briefly. Is Fiona fat, really?
Yeah.
She's as fat as Shrek
As
is.
the- as
If
the
you think
ogre?
Shrek is fat, you got
But
to
she doesn't have any sort of belly. She has an hourglass figure.
No, but
She's,
I mean,
I think she's fat.
big, small, big.
She's
I mean,
fat
Well,
in
then
the way
Shrek
that
isn't fat either.
I think she's fat in the way that the sort of standard plus size model is fat. Like
Yes.
they
Yeah.
are fat, but they're not
Yeah, okay.
fat the way that a lot of normal, everyday, average fat people.
Well,
are
but
fat.
Don,
Fair
that's why I thought like Shrek isn't particularly fat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is why I really leaned into the idea of othering when I was watching this.
Right.
Because I told Michael this earlier. Get ready to laugh at me. I will support my argument. When I was watching this last night, I started thinking, Shrek is a MAGA person. Oh. Right? And this is a MAGA character. He's someone who's convinced the world is against him because they hate him for what he is, right? Everyone hates me. I'm so put down, right? Because everyone thinks I'm so horrible and ugly, right? And so I'm going to reject the world, right? And his journey to self-acceptance is realizing like, oh, people don't hate me for who I am. I was just being kind of a dick, right? And when he starts kind of being kinder to Donkey and to Fiona and opening up to these other people and not assuming that everyone hates him just because of who he is, then his world gets brighter, right? And so when I started thinking about this being the MAGA thing, all of a sudden that led me down this other path of like, oh, this is literally everyone. This is everyone who feels that they are on the outside. And I saw it through the lens of fat because that's how I felt I was outside.
Interesting.
I see it through the lens of gay because that's how I'm outside, right? So
Interesting.
I
feel free to yell at me and tell me I'm weird.
no.
You go.
So I think I agree with the overall sentiment that this is the other. This is you can stand, and I think a lot of successful movies like this, and Disney movies too, allow you to put yourself in the shoes of the person who is other for not specific reasons, but just sort of generally the outsider who's trying to find a way to either fit in or accept themselves or both. The MAGA comparison, I think, is tough because I don't know a lot of MAGA people who don't, like Shrek wants to be left alone.
Shrek is offended by the number of immigrants coming to his home, and he literally wants to build a wall around his swamp.
But he wants to be left alone. And I don't know a lot of MAGA people who don't want to fuck things up for basically everyone else that they don't like. They become aggressive. Like they
want themselves to be left alone with their kind.
Well, no, but they want the world to change in order to suit them. Whereas Shrek just literally just wants to be by himself in his swamp and everyone else can do whatever they want to do. And that's not MAGA to me.
Yeah, he's a misanthrope.
Yeah.
He's
I think also the MAGA thing is like Shrek's whole thing is in opening up to everyone become more capable of connecting. But his whole thing about like, people being ogres are like onions. And it's that people aren't willing to peel back the layers.
But he's not willing to do that with other people. It's when he's starting to accept that the princess is also an onion and that she has layers that he starts having empathy. And like the MAGA people, once he starts having empathy and understanding that other people have feelings, then it's harder for him to have those belief systems. I'm sorry, it stuck for me. It just landed really
I get
well.
it. I get it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just, I agree with your overall conclusion, which is that this is any other.
Yeah.
And you can put yourself in there. Like if you're a MAGA identifier and you sit and watch Shrek, you can see yourself in there, like for sure. I don't necessarily have a lot of empathy for that, but
no, but I mean, if it's something that if it can get that message across to those horrible, horrible people, then
I don't think MAGA people are onions. I think they might just be
they're parfaits.
Everyone loves parfait, but everyone loves a parfait.
They're a trifle at best.
I think they're a beet. MAGA people are beets. It's just.
It was interesting rewatching it though because it is tightly written. Like that script is good, and it's funny if you're ever studying screenwriting. I noticed that it's the exact length of a stereotypical script. Act 2 begins at 15 minutes in exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, they're
to the minute.
To the minute.
Yeah.
So I had this observation, and this brought up an interesting point with Don, because I guess because of the research you were doing. I feel like the dragon is fat.
I did too.
Or at least very, very voluptuous.
I mean, at this point, then every character's fat and nobody's fat.
No, but look at the proportions. The upper body of the dragon is fairly like standard.
And the tiny wings. I don't know.
But then her hips and her tail are huge.
So, Dan, I can actually confirm from the research that is the slimmed down version of the original fat dragon that was intended to be in the movie. The original dragon was designed fat.
Did the dragon have titties?
I don't know if it had titties, but the dragon was designed fat, and up until the point where they had the first test screenings. And the audiences saw Donkey romantically manipulating the fat dragon, and they were uncomfortable with it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That kind of made me feel good. I was like, oh, they were on the side of the fat character. Yay! So they had to kind of trim down the dragon a little bit so people didn't feel ooky about it.
So here's my question about the ending. Is it so? The whole, of course, they're in love with each other. They share a kiss right before sunset, and she goes up and becomes all magically sparkly. And they make you think that she's going to come back down as a human and not an ogre,
Right?
Because she's already transformed.
Well, because the idea is it's like the kissing the frog. Frog turns into a prince. So you kiss.
Yeah.
So true love transforms her into something beauteous, which of course means a particular standard of beauty.
Right. So my question is that the more avant-garde direction to go rather than her actually becoming human and still having and still getting together with Shrek?
I think people would have thrown things at the screen.
Yeah.
If the hot princess,
That's kind of what I mean,
walks
though.
away with Shrek. Yeah.
That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah.
Is that which one is pushing the envelope further?
I feel like if she's the hot princess, then it's just like King of Queens.
Yeah.
Shrek gets a job at UPS.
I really agree. Because then they become the typical couple that you do expect.
Well, but no, people would be so upset by that ending.
No, but the classically attractive female with the classically unattractive male is just a standard we've seen 1,000 times.
It is. But again,
But not in a romance movie.
not in a romance movie.
Which I guess this is a romance and a comedy, so it's got both.
No, look, if the point of the movie is they live happily ever after, that can't be happily ever after. People will will riot.
I'm curious, because it's part of it. I think it's mixed for me because her having to be an ogre to be with him, I think, is dicey. But her turning into an ogre as a reflection of her accepting herself is
great.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And so it's it's not cut and dry.
Look, it's you're not going to have it all. We know that, right? You're not going to have it all, and you're not going to please everybody's point of view.
Have you not read my shirt?
There was actually
It literally says I can have it all.
they didn't go in depth in it, but there was a discussion of that in the writer's room. And the original thought was, that it would make people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
sure.
So they intentionally left out her parentage from that first movie.
So that we wouldn't know what she really is.
Yeah,
right.
at the end of the first movie, she might actually be an ogre. Who knows? That could be her, the way she was born.
Yeah.
It's never said. Not until you get to the second movie.
Right, because that was my question. What is she really?
Yeah. But in the first movie, they intentionally left that out. Shrek's parents were actually originally included in the original drafts of the movie.
Oh, interesting.
And they were played by the two parents from Happy Days.
Oh, Tom Bosley and Marion Ross.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't know if you rewatched Shrek and you have some feels and maybe some personal anecdotes about it. Let us know because.
And I think even from remembering from when you first watched it, because that I think was the more influential time when it actually first came out.
I feel like this is a movie you may have different reactions to now than you did the first time. It's been a long time.
It does hold up, though. I feel
does.
I think, and even with
wonderful,
the animation looks delightfully dated, but it's still.
I didn't even think it was that dated. It's dated, but not like there's Toy Story.
They
dated.
pick their moments where they really where it looks phenomenal, even still. But there are plenty of points where you're kind of like, oh, that's a really low-res texture there. Okay, but yeah, some of it's really beautiful still.
I guess I'll go into a tip since I mentioned it. So if you live in the LA area and you want to go to the Shrek the Shrek rave, or as they call it, the Swamp Gala, it is May 27th at.
Why, that's just a couple weeks away.
21 o'clock. What is 21 o'clock?
That's 11. No, that's
1 o'clock
9.
would be 9 p.m.
9 p.m.
At 9. Okay, so it is
Fucking 24-hour time.
May 27th at 9 p.m.
Is this a military production?
at the Hollywood Palladium. Tickets they range from $40 each to $158 each.
At the Palladium.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's 1 block from my apartment. If you go,
Don, you have to go to the
have
Shrek
dinner
rave.
first.
Yeah.
Go to the Shrek rave.
Shrek.
All right. For today's bit, surprise, surprise, we have Shrek trivia.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun. All right.
I don't think I have
Good
it.
thing I watched the movie.
Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as we've discussed, Mike Myers was not, in fact, the original Shrek. The original Shrek was Chris Farley. However, Cameron Diaz was also not the original princess. There was a completely different princess.
You do not say.
Who was the original princess? Who played Princess Fiona?
Melissa McCarthy.
1, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, jeez.
2, Janine Garofalo. 3, Kate Winslet. Or 4, Helen Hunt.
I'm going to say Helen Hunt
Yeah,
based
Helen
on the era.
Hunt for
Okay.
me.
I'm going to say Janine Garofalo because I can see that pairing of Janine Garofalo and Chris Farley.
Okay. All right. So we have 2 Helen Hunts and 1 Janine Garofalo, and the correct answer is, in fact, Janine Garofalo.
Holy moly.
So Janine Garofalo was playing Princess Fiona up till the point of Chris Farley's death, and then she was fired and never told why. To this day, she has never been told why she lost the role.
Maybe he was the one who wanted her on the project and the execs didn't, but they wanted him.
Maybe.
That would make a lot of sense.
That I could see in a
Because she's, she's incredibly talented and a bit prickly.
I could see her in the part.
Oh, of course. But it's a very different Fiona.
Oh, yeah. All right. Of all the fairy tale characters Farquad rounds up, or
You're
Ron
mispronouncing
DeSantis,
it. His name is Farquad.
there's only one casualty whose corpse is displayed rather prominently in one scene.
I know
Which
this.
character doesn't survive to the end of Shrek, although they do appear alive again in later movies? 1, the gingerbread man. 2, Mama Bear. 3, the big bad wolf. Or 4, Pinocchio.
Mama Bear.
Got
I almost
one
said
for
Mama
Mama Bear.
Wolf.
Yeah. Oh my God. She gets turned into a bearskin rug, doesn't she?
Okay, we got 2 for
I
Mama
didn't
Bear.
see any of this.
Mama Bear.
Okay. Do you have a guess?
Pinocchio.
All right. The correct answer is Mama Bear. In fact, the scene where Farquad is talking to the mirror going like, show me the princess again. He's in bed. And it's sort of implied that he's looking at his dick under the blankets. As the camera pans through his room, Mama Bear is a bearskin rug in his bedroom.
And
It's so dark. I remember noticing that.
Yeah. And then at the end, Papa Bear and Baby Bear are dancing together, but Mama Bear is nowhere to be seen.
Well, and
so dark.
in
I
the-
missed none of the. I missed
the scene at the swamp, when everyone's at the swamp at the start, Baby Bear is crying and Papa Bear is consoling him.
Yeah.
It's very
Oh my
sad.
God.
It's dark. There is some dark in the background of this movie.
Well, oh my gosh. Do you think, okay, this is a reach, but I'm going to say it. Do you think that is an inside trope joke about the missing mother in Disney films?
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Who taught you that?
Well done. Well done. I see that.
Because it's clearly a choice. Like,
yeah.
they had to animate that, and they made a choice.
And if you're going to get rid of one bear, why her? I think it's the mother.
You're right.
The whole there's no mothers in Disney films.
Wow.
That's fascinating.
Good call. All right. Final question. Shrek became the mascot for DreamWorks Animation, but he's not the only character from the movie that went corporate. What other Shrek character sold out to make it big? 1, Donkey became a McDonald's spokesperson in the UK for several months after a Burger King scandal revealed they were using horse meat.
Whoa.
2,
I'm sorry, I just want that to be true. That's just too clever.
2, the gingerbread man became the mascot for Walmart.
I think I
3,
already get the guess.
Puss in Boots became a temporary mascot for Pets.com. Or 4, Magic Mirror was briefly featured in a line of ads for Bed Bath & Beyond.
I'm going to say 5, all of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above. All right, we've got an all of the above.
I'm also all of the above.
We got an
because
all of
this
the above.
seems
I
like
can't resist all the
a
above.
Don trick.
Y'all are wrong.
No.
Y'all are wrong. The only one that was right was the gingerbread man was a brief spokesperson for Walmart.
All right, I wasn't going to guess
Okay.
that anyway, so that would have been
I
wrong.
knew that was one, but I feel like I remember Puss in Boots. And
I thought of Puss in Boots for PetSmart, but anyway.
Well, what did you think, guys? Do you remember Puss in Boots pitching PetSmart at Pets.com at some point?
Puss.
If
in
so,
Boots.
Trevor, where could they go to tell us about it?
I was going to try to do the whole thing as Puss in Boots, but absolutely not.
You can do it. Do it as opposed to.
We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars everywhere. Apple Podcasts.
We're almost at 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts. We can do it.
We took a little dive on Spotify, so
Yeah, hey,
yeah.
go fix Spotify for us.
we were really good for a while. Support us on Patreon. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Well, maybe you're getting up. You're all costumed. You're lining up to get
ready
in
for
the swamp gala.
I'm going to the swamp.
But you're dressed as Mama Bear.
Oh,
no!
And,
What?
And Farquad's coming.
Farquad is coming?
Yeah, so
Watch out.